that next level nightmare. No, fire. No, truth, freedom, renaissance, revolution. Nah, that's crazy. Crazy talk is what they want. Crazy talk is not what they'll get. See? Remember when we used to do this work here on YouTube and we were talking about the way the world was going to become? Remember how we were talking about how things were happening, the way things would be, what was going to become of all of us? The whole great pandemic, the great reset, the great scamdemic, pandemic, the great controversies that we've all been wrestling with. I said that this is not a great inheritance. It's just the teachings I've acquired over the course of the time in my life. This is not a great inheritance. It's a grand enterprise that we've inherited in the end. But right now, this world is not ours, nor is it his. It's the others. So let's keep it simple, right? This world isn't for us to thrive in. It's a beautiful desert. Our creation has been rendered or reduced to what they would call a beautiful desert. And in that, we've we can make it anything we want it to be. But our choices have allowed free will to move us into a position where people are manipulating that which is our equal right and access to alter, change, and co-create into what we believe it should become. We haven't even began to scratch the surface of what this beautiful world could be if we chose to work together to bring it into that place and that reality. But by their systems of education, manipulation, exploitation, destruction, division, they have created a world where we don't know how to work together anymore. We've become lost, we become disconnected, we become broken, broken down and distorted from what we were meant to be and changing into what they've desired us to be. Something that is incapable of working in harmony with one another, with itself, with each other. And what this accomplishes is the opportunity to create the world where they rule over every aspect of our life and they dictate what it is that our lives are comprised of. Now, when we would go to stand up against such a thing, we are often bombarded, we are often hit, blasted, confronted with some type of immediate catastrophe, national emergency. Our loot is then harvested and our energy is directed towards what it is that they wish to use it for. A gentleman who works on YouTube as well, Brother Sanchez, recently created some content that is some of the most profound content that he's created throughout the course of his work. However, I wish to argue with him in short some of the ideas, the nature of that which he's presenting to his audience, and the contradictive nature of some of it. Now, we are living in an era where the largest system of beliefs, generally the most popular and most converted to system of beliefs, which is the Adamic religions of Christianity and so on and so forth, have led people not only astray, but to a different place entirely altogether than where they would be if they were governing themselves. And this is something that Brother Sanchez has brought to the table and is highly correct in presenting. But where we are beginning to find a conflict is that mankind is able to be manipulated by different forces and different elements and different energetic forms and vibrations and frequencies and consciousnesses. And the very book that tells us that we are protected against such things is the very book that he's criticizing, which I support as well, as being flawed and being a tool for no other purpose than to control humanity. Now, in the age of Aquarius, which is the age in which we find ourselves currently presiding in, which is again a tool given to us by fallen beings, which are rebellious spirits, are rebellious entities, are systems of consciousness, we are suddenly coming into this sudden burst of incredible awakening and insight into the very nature and the truth of what is really governing our world, our place within it, and all of these celestial experiences that are seem to be beginning to manifest themselves again. Now, I value the spiritual world, but some people don't necessarily see or experience the spiritual world. I value the scientific world, but some people see the scientific world as a system of flawed teachings that are taken in perhaps one best what best to say out of their true context and change from what they truly represent and what they mean for our lives, and repurposing them again for the general lack of well-being that they can create by utilizing systems of fear to control us into believing that not only are weapons there that are capable of systematically destroying life on our planet, but there are also viruses and pathogens and meteors and asteroids and comets and volcanoes. And yes, many of these things may be true and have great truth to them, but the way in which they project them to our minds are engineered in a way which are intended to terrorize us and terrify us and scare us into thinking that this is that we are very close to some form of certain and immediate and sudden destruction. So, where it is best that we direct our consciousness then towards is in the idea that we are not immediately facing certain and sudden and complete destruction, but rather we are being manipulated to be driven by fear, to be isolated from one another, to be made to constantly be overstimulated and psychically, emotionally bombarded by all these different weapon systems that are being utilized to destroy us and shorten our lifespan and nudge us and move us into certain modes of and modalities of feeling and thinking and being. And what we have to do instead is push ourselves to overcome these systems of division so that we can become better, healthier, more sound of mind and judgment and body, and realize that these social media influencers are trying to generate division as well, and we can overcome them by putting our attention and our energy in the appropriate places so that our children can receive a greater inheritance than that which we've been burdened with. And There are many tactics and approaches for accomplishing this, not only limited, you not only to consider just to not limit any idea, but we can work with our children's schools to to demand a higher level of accountability from them and a better form and quality of knowledge. That's not what's taking place. They're dumbing our children down severely. I don't know. It's a combination of the 4-day school week, because if you remember, a 5-day work week was something that our school week was something that was developed in order to provide balance between 5 and 2, which was a very good harmony. You don't need 3 days of rest, because in 3 days you begin to forget that which you've been taught. Do any of you remember that? So we are at a critical juncture right now where they're trying to just break everything that makes America strong and great down. And they're using these authoritative stances and executive positions to tell us what it is that our society and our culture should consist of, when it is these statements and ideas should be coming from within. It's all manipulation. There are no relationship with the leaders of industry anymore. We have to really truly consider who of these leaders in industry are scripted and engineered, and who in fact may have been organic. It's even possible to consider that Henry Ford was made up. But let us not digress. Let us consider that if in fact Henry Ford was real, that he was a great leader trying to direct and steer the people into a direction that was for their own benefit, so that they may again wake up and become aware of the situation at hand and what is taking place. They don't really want many people being aware of such things. They don't want people thinking on these types of levels. They don't want people contemplating these types of realities. Instead, they'd rather keep us divided, distracted, entertained, infotained, therapeutically meeting at our, relative corners. I get it. People want connection. They want to interact with one another. We need to go out and seek that in the real world then. We need to seek that out in real life, and we need to teach young minds how to be healthier and stronger and not become prey to the system of the criminal justice system and the criminal behavior system that is taught and brought to us by the public school system, obviously because of the way in which these two systems align. They know how to create more balance and order and stability, and they've gotten away from that as well, because it benefits them, because then there's less people in and less numbers in the unemployment ranks, because people who are incarcerated do not count towards unemployment numbers. This is just the beginning of what it is that needs to be shared and considered. We have a lot more work to do. We have a lot of effort to make. We have a lot of things to do now while we have the chance. So, this is what I'm beginning to encourage us all to begin to become active participants in active, willing participants of in this changing of the guard, so that we can take responsibility and accountability while we still have enough health and life to do so. Because our generation was also sickened by all these vaccines. That's why we have so many health problems. So we absolutely and with great sincerity need to come together now. We need to wake up to the actions that have been forced and engineered against us now, so that we can take back that which is rightfully ours, which is our children's futures, our grandchildren's lives, or the lack thereof. We have to do this, because this is the only thing that is laid out before us that can change the path that we have been placed upon. And if we come together to do this now, if we elect William Douglas for president, then there's an opportunity where this will happen, and we will finally be free of the deep state Zionist state, the Zionist control, the Kabbalah, the indoctrination programming, the royal bloodline families, the usury, the controls that are invisible to even the most keen of eyes. We have to push ourselves to a place where that is what is our future consists of. If not, the alternative is bleak, dark, and near hopeless. This is what we are called to do the work necessary to at least show that we are capable adversaries and are able to fight back against the dumbing down of society, the creation of a medical industrial complex and the advancement of the military industrial complex. All of this has cost us, our nation, our lives so dearly, and we have to begin to unify and unite and communicate and work together again. And the first step of that is getting these bloody prison cell devices out of our hands, because they're perfect monitoring devices and they're incredibly efficient behavior modifying devices. There's so many things they can do with these things that you're not aware of, and if you only were aware of them, you would be terrified of what they were doing to you. But we're deep now. We're deep to the point where even if you knew what they were doing, it doesn't necessarily mean you would care. You have to come out of it. You have to work your way through it. You have to do what is necessary to free yourself and break yourself of these chains, these addictions, these patterns of behavior, because you yourself personally have the skills, the abilities, the tools to make great positive change in this world. But you have to stand up and you have to act on these thoughts you have, and you have to push yourself and you have to do what is necessary to become that person you envision yourself as being, as that God has called you to be, has created you to be, has built you to be, and you have simply not yet had the opportunity to put all these pieces together and become that person for yourself and for those around you who are in your sphere of influence, so that you can help the process of all of us healing and becoming great, capable warriors of change and virtue and moral and justice and peace and unity and so on and so forth. That is how we can thrive. Even in a dying and decaying world, though there's plenty of beauty and peace and prosperity if you go outside the borders of the United States, the problem that we face most dearly now is here. And that's why, again, closest message was saying William G. Douglas is running for president. And if you could just imagine what it would be like to have somebody who had just that type of audacity, that type of compassion and passion and fire and will and motivation and courage, you could just imagine how that would shake and rattle and roll the structures and the powers that should not have ever been to their very core. How we will have to protect that asset, and in doing so, we will ensure the changing and the healing and the rebirth of the greatest nation to ever bless the rest of the world with its gift of charity, grace, and prosperity. But we have to come back to the great people we once were that made us this great nation, so they can lead by example and be the example and the role model and the mentor for the mentoree of this young and blossoming country and its inhabitants, their lives, and their families, which is what makes up a nation in its first place. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you are blessed and that you hear this message in health and peace and love. We will catch up and talk again soon.